It's the Wow Show, Women on Women. I'm Shazmin Shamsuddin.
I'm Joanne Campopo.
And I'm Ning Zura.
And when we get together, women in general, all we ever end up talking about is toxic relationships.
Correct. Yeah.
Confirm.
Confirm.
Toxic relationships, whether it be with our partners, our exes, our family, our friends,
Followers.
our fans.
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 So
Yeah.
many toxicity in
Yeah.
our lives.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why we're gonna, let's discuss this further with clinical psychologist Shireen Olikh. Welcome back.
Hi, ladies. Great to be back.
Oh, hi, Shireen. Nice to meet you because I wasn't here the last time we were together.
Well,
I was unwell.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
All right. I think you're the best person to define actually what is toxic when it comes to relationships of, any kind.
Sorry, before
Yeah.
she goes up, I think this is not only for partners, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband's wife, can be parents, can be friends as well, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, absolutely. So when we talk about toxic relationships, we're not just talking about the romance factor. This is for anyone in your life.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to define it would be anyone that threatens you when it comes to emotionally, psychologically, or even physically. If it ticks any one of those three boxes, boom, it is toxic.
Right. I mean, we all have someone in that category. kan?
Correct. But
That's
sometimes we
toxic.
are like blind towards it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's defining toxic relationship is one thing. How do we even know that the relationship that we are sharing is toxic? Because again, it could be like parents, best friends, childhood friends. It could even be between mother and daughter.
Yeah.
So we're gonna want to look out for a few signs
Okay.
and think about it like your cheat sheet to identifying toxic relationships. All
Okay.
right.
Mhm.
So first thing that we want to look at is someone that lies to you constantly and they're gaslighting you.
First sign is the lying.
The lying, the gaslighting, not taking accountability, and a huge red flag, never apologizes. Or if they do apologize, you see the same behavior happening again. So that is manipulation.
Isn't it a little bit narcissist in a certain way?
But what if
Yeah.
they are always defending themselves, you know, like deflecting because it's never their fault or they when you say that, okay, you're not hearing me, and then they ask you things like, no, you have to tell me when am I not hearing you?
That in itself already sounds toxic because look at what you're saying. They are defensive. They're coming in hot. They're not looking at it like, hey, we have a problem and it's us versus the problem. No, they're looking at it like you are my enemy and I'm going to attack you. So if that's already the environment, you're going to leave feeling drained, unhappy, sad. That are the signs of a toxic relationship in play.
Okay, understand. So basically, we have to put our energy out there. But if the
Yeah.
energy is not accepted well, we can retract. It's our choice.
Okay. But
Right.
coming back to all
Yeah.
this, there are patterns to look out for, patterns that we ourselves,
Identify.
identify
busy,
with. I
maybe,
mean,
yeah.
like, okay,
I do the
in a
same.
romantic setting, I tell you, this is my pattern lately, okay?
Okay.
I tend to choose men who are physically unavailable, like not in town, basically far, far away. I think what it is I want a pen friend. I'm
But
just
that's
like,
not toxic, is
Yeah,
it?
it's just
You just want some independence, I think.
but can you really build a relationship in that sense? Where someone's not even physically there with you. You just want the idea, I suppose. I've thought a lot about this, obviously.
But do these people actually get to this part of the world? Are they committed to
Why?
one
That's
thing?
where it becomes toxic.
Because like I have relationships like that as well. But the person's so far and I'm like, nya. Kalau aku
Tak lah.
gatal macam mana ni?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why. Because like I have like a friend that I see casually and then they moved far. If they moved like near like Bangkok or Singapore or even Bali, Indonesia, you can
Yeah.
just take a flight over.
Yeah.
But if they move to like Spain,
It gets
Yeah.
harder.
Germany,
How?
Or London, which is the case
London,
here.
do I look like I have like a flight, what do you call this?
Yeah.
Flight points to get myself over there.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, I
yeah,
totally get
that-
you. I mean, this is the thing. That's my pattern. I'll admit it, and I'm not interested in dating anyone locally because it's like then I'll have to deal with them on a day-to-day, face-to-face basis. So that's, I suppose, my pattern, lah.
The pattern itself sounds like there's a bit of fear when it comes to being vulnerable. Because
Okay.
notice, you want
ah,
them in your life, but they're not close enough where they're actually
mm,
going to impact your routine, your day to day life.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, oh, I need to pick up a phone to get in touch with you. But if
Mm.
you don't want them, you can just go on airplane mode. You can just not look at your phone.
Mm.
They're in your life, but they're not really in your life.
Okay. So
Mm.
am I the toxic one? Am I the drama?
well, women are all dramatic one way or
Yeah.
another. I mean,
Yeah.
that one I admit. You know,
Yeah.
my daughter calls me a drama queen.
Of
And
course.
this is my daughter, right?
Well, you're a queen.
So, that one confirm lah. Look at me, kan?
And only when you're on stage, you got drama.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
banyak drama on
Mm.
stage.
We all do. We all
Uh-uh.
do. Even after.
But I guess it's also what you're projecting out.
Yeah.
You know, like what you said, which is also, I know why I'm not in a relationship right now,
Yeah.
because I don't want that relationship to burden what I have to do with my life at the moment, because I have so many things. I'm producing shows, I'm making sure my daughter's okay, I'm dealing with anxiety and
Mm.
different situations at home. So, can I actually comfortably say, I want this person in my life? Because then I have to include them as well. Right now, I'm like, oh, if I want to deal with you, I deal with you. If I don't want to deal with you, I can switch off.
Macam
Turn on
sama
the,
je our
turn
pattern
on
ni,
the
Joanne.
airplane mode. I think it's our age group pun lah.
You want what's convenient. And the
Ha.
thing is, these people right now, it's convenient to keep them at that level.
Mm,
But if you
right.
were to actually have them in your life all the time, that comes with the reality of a relationship, which is there's going to be some conflict, there's going to be some compromises. And right now, it's basically, hey, I'm at that age where I just want to do what I want to do. And that could be the reason why keeping them at a distance allows you to do that.
Oh, very insightful.
So again, are we the toxic one?
Seems
Here's-
like it.
Here's the thing. If I'm looking at toxic specifically, what
Mm-mm.
I want you to reflect on would be, but are you gaslighting someone? Are you controlling? Are you jealous? Are you the
Yeah.
reason why they are constantly feeling small? Meaning, the way that you talk to them, you're always belittling them.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's really in the interactions, meaning, if
Mm.
you are the person that's showing up to the relationship and you're making someone feel bad, then yes, that is toxic because you are intentionally trying to pull someone down.
And that's an interesting fact as well, because of course a lot of times people are going to say, "Yeah lah, you're a woman. Once you all get together, you all gang up." You know,
Aish.
right? Right?
Yeah, I can't.
Right?
It's the
Kan?
man who says that,
Ah,
right?
the man who
yeah,
says
and
that.
women among women too.
Of course,
correct.
there is a
Yeah.
lot of people are people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But so why are we attracting them?
Why
Sub-
we attracting
yeah,
them? Perhaps,
subconsciously.
like again,
Yeah.
like what Shireen was saying, are we even giving the other relationship that respect to want to be healthy? And because it's always easier to say, hey, you're the toxic one.
Yeah.
But could it be
Mhm.
also us a
Us,
little bit?
yeah.
If we don't change, like if I don't change and say, hey, I want you in my life, I will take on your bullshit because I've got bullshit as well. Let's shit
Mhm.
together.
Why
Okay,
not?
they may not that may not be the right flow, but taking on someone else in a relationship.
Mhm.
Okay, if you're going to be serious and
Mm.
want it needs to go both hands. So if you are like gaslighting, and sometimes even like I admit, okay, like I'm so used to like directing people. So I direct the relationships in my
Right.
life as well, especially the close ones.
Yeah.
And because we're so used to, no, eat your medicine. No, do this. No, go and look for courses.
Yeah.
And because we are in a situation where we are of that level, that even at work, we are managing directors, we are CEO, women have taken that upon them. They have they when they go to work, it's a different kind of animal, I would say. Yeah, it's this girl boss that hey, w- y- targets needs to be met. You need to what do you call this
Step up. Yeah.
hit your quota, step up. And for women in the industry, lagi more.
Mm.
Because there's a glass ceiling. And I know with all strong women, it comes with you need to be in control because only
Mm.
when you're in control, then the result comes and because you're viable
Mm.
for those results.
Mm.
But because we are so much directing this whole thing that is consuming more than half of our life, do we then forget that when it comes to the relationship, perhaps with a new person, a new guy, you know, even a new pet, you know,
Mhm.
are we giving them and allowing them that space
Mm.
to try and come close,
Mm.
you know? Or are we just like, no, you need to do this. No, you need to do that. And then come back like you're the toxic one. Then what happens to the other person is like, eh, betul ke ni? Like, like I just asked her if she was hungry. Ah,
What would you comment on that, Shireen?
ah.
Please share with us.
Something that we want to look at, right?
Yeah.
When we think that we keep attracting patterns or partners or even
Mm.
friendships, very similar themes, we have to look at our childhood. Because if you grew up in an environment
Mm.
where perhaps feelings were not really
Mm.
spoken about or things were talked about, but in a very passive aggressive nature, then guess what? That's familiar. And when
Mm.
you become an adult,
Mhm.
you tend to gravitate towards what is familiar. So even though something is not healthy, even though it may be toxic, when it's familiar, you'll go, oh, why do I feel so comfortable with this person?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
if you notice, a lot of times people say, I don't know what it is about that person, but we just click. That's probably a sign of some trauma being activated because if you don't know and
Mm.
you're saying there was just a pull,
Mm.
that pull is probably your childhood trauma being activated. It's familiar. And so you let this person in your life and you stay even though you see the red flags.
Wow, that's so insightful because suddenly I reflect on my childhood.
Yeah.
I don't really have I don't really mind if my stepsisters or stepbrothers are gonna watch this or say things, but from at the age of very young, I grew up watching my mother being the second wife of my father, who was never there. What I mean is, she was made to forced to be married to him. Yeah,
Mhm.
they got married and then forced to live with my first mother. It's her first wife, whatever, like his first wife. And then we were all forced to live in this environment where I realized at the age of 7, 8, 9, it's so toxic for my mother because she's unhappy. And what I did, my intentions at that time was to take her out of it because she is the sole provider. My dad wasn't around, bless him. He's passed on, but he wasn't around, and I noticed that this is pretty toxic. So for me, personally, after seeing my mother going through and giving her devotion for 26 years for the whole family and all that, she stayed. This is the thing about women. If they feel like they want to secure their environment, to
Mhm.
save their family, their children, they would stay. So instead of me saying, it's okay, mom, we can stay, at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, I keep telling her, we have to move out. We have to move out. Because I could really relate to the situation being toxic to her. She was losing herself, losing her mind, trying to be the sole provider.
Mhm.
So, what I'm saying right now is because of my father being, again, please do not be angry, a Muslim man and my race, right? I had the fear of dating the same race because I was worried that they're going to treat me the same. So that relates back to my past. And so,
Yeah.
do you think, what would you advise on that? Because I've been avoiding, and in the end, I'm, alhamdulillah, happily married to people say the Masale, the foreigner. But I guess it's only because I realized that they're very open and they're receptive of my individuality and my independence and all that.
Mm-mm.
So, what about people out there who just do not know when to get
Mm.
out?
Yeah.
How do they do that?
As an adult,
Yeah.
we are all responsible for our own healing journey. And
Right.
that's where self awareness comes in. So when you say, hey, I see the red flags, I
Mm,
see that this is an
mm,
unhealthy environment. And if you stay, then the thing is that's on you
Mm.
because you are 100% responsible to get yourself to a place of safety. And if you're saying, oh, but no, they're only like this when they get angry or they have a lot of good traits
Oh,
within them,
excuses.
we're not saying that they are
Mm.
good or bad. There's
Mm.
no need to put them in such a box. It's
Mhm.
just looking at the situation like, does this affect me negatively, emotionally, psychologically,
Mm.
physically? If you're answering yes, and
Mm.
that is affecting you,
Mm.
your self esteem, then it's very important to get out of that situation rather than staying and making
Mm.
excuses for it.
Mm.
So I'm glad that I got out then.
Yeah.
And
Well,
took my
Yep.
mother
I
out.
mean, you
Yeah.
you said a few things that kind of not triggered me, but
Yeah.
I kind of like, okay, stuff that happened in your
Yeah.
childhood, and
Mm-mm.
we go back to this quite a bit. But here's the thing: I had a very happy childhood, and my parents' marriage was almost perfect,
Mm-mm.
and there wasn't any kind of trauma there that I can
Alhamdulillah.
really fully
Mm.
identify.
Mm.
Maybe subconsciously there are a few things I may have picked up. So why am I then attracting a certain type of toxic partner or situationship relationship when I didn't have that blueprint,
Ah.
or I
Mm.
feel I'd never had
Ah.
That's
that
a good
blueprint,
question.
you
Okay,
know?
Yeah.
faham?
So that's the thing. Am I the drama?
Let me pull it out to a wider scope here,
Okay.
okay? Let's just look at if we grew up in a family
Mm.
where we're kind of seeing the idol of
Mm,
couples,
Mm.
right?
yeah.
Then you got to ask yourself, do I believe that I am worthy of that type of love? Okay, think about it. Do
Mm.
I believe that I am worthy of that type of love?
Mm.
And so if we feel, no, I want that type of love, but it scares me, there
Mm.
is some fear attached to that type of love.
Mm.
To give that much of yourself to someone, to put all your eggs in that basket, what if they hurt you?
Mm.
What if they destroy your whole world? So, somehow, if that fear exists and there's a sense of maybe I don't deserve that, maybe I'm not worthy of that type of
Mm.
relationship,
Mm.
we're going to self sabotage. And that might
Ah,
be
That's a
what's
key
coming
word.
up
okay.
here.
Self-sabotage. My mother
I
does
do
that a
Self-sabotage.
that
lot when
all
she
the
was,
time.
yeah.
I think
We all do that too
yeah, we all
sometimes.
generally want a healthy,
Yeah.
loving
Yeah.
relationship, but then we self-sabotage it with people that we know
Mhm.
will not give that to us,
Mm.
right?
Because of the unworthiness factor. Is that it?
That could be a huge play. And another
Yeah.
one to highlight on, let's say if we grew up with a family that they provided everything, but maybe they weren't the affectionate type. Come
Ah,
on, growing up in Asian
Yeah, mine's
family,
not.
I don't think I heard an I love you
Yeah.
till I was in my teen years, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens if we're not comfortable with affection? If we're not comfortable
ah,
with that type of
okay.
attention,
They want it, but then you're not comfortable
Yeah,
and you don't
yes.
Shaz,
want
are
to
you affectionate? Are
say.
you the type that I love you, I miss you, I want to
Yeah.
hug you?
With my kids up to a
Yeah.
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
point.
yeah. But with
Ah.
your
And even
partner.
I noticed it as well when I was a
Yeah.
child. All that was happening till I was about 10 years old. After that,
Ah.
shy already.
Yeah,
Ah.
okay.
I don't
Is
want
it an
to.
Asian
I don't
thing?
want to hug and
Yeah.
kiss you goodnight anymore. I'll just say
Correct.
night.
How do we even identify our own
Yeah.
affection? What are we comfortable to give out? Sometimes like
Yeah.
even to say to give like I realize it's easier for me to hug a friend
Mm-hmm.
than to hug,
Hug your family.
yeah,
Your own
Ah,
daughter?
your
your
own daughter.
actually my own daughter is very different. Like, I want to hug her, she don't want to hug me, so a different story. But that's also because she's older.
Puberty and older,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
yeah.
older. She's like,
Teenager.
don't smother me.
Yeah.
Smother me. But yeah, if I like someone, I realize that my affection like changes.
Mm.
Like they'll know that I care, but I'm not gonna like, oh, I love you. Oh, you're so important in my life. I'm like, hey, you know lah.
Yeah.
Why I need to tell you, you know? But here's the thing, like we're talking about patterns and all. Sometimes the patterns that we get ourselves in, like what you say, comfortable. It triggers you. You're like, yeah, this person I can cling with, but these are all patterns, like if we look into it, could be unhealthy and you could be projecting it as well. How do we get out of this pattern,
Behavior,
this
right? Yeah.
behavior, this
Please tell us.
steps?
So, one of the things that we need to also look out for is a lot of times empathetic people
Right.
tend to attract narcissists. Okay, so why is that? Big, okay.
Actually, I so
All the box, all the box, all the
Flag.
flags, all the
Yeah.
flags.
Go on,
So
So what do we
Shireen.
here's
do?
what's happening,
Yeah.
okay? Because with empaths, they have a lot to give. They're like the overgivers. And there's a lot of compassion there, and there's a tendency to have difficulty in setting boundaries. When we look at the narcissist, they're gonna take, and they have no problem pushing your boundaries.
Yeah.
So we also want to just be mindful about that, that pattern that happens.
Correct.
If you recognize, oh yeah, that's me, I'm in that. How do we get ourselves out? First thing, stop making excuses for them. You need
Okay.
to become aware of the red flags. When you see the red flags, don't go, oh, wow, that's a carnival. Let me go towards it. No. Red,
Yeah, it's like, let's go
Don't
there.
attract that. Okay.
red
Thank
flags,
you.
run away.
Mm.
Because,
Okay, what if you
yes.
cannot run away? What if this is a person that you have found
Or you
found
tied down too.
a
which
new
is worse.
partnership? Maybe you have to work with this
Yeah.
person for a certain period of time, project management, and you have no choice but to work with this narcissist. And you're seeing that every time you suggest something, or every time you say, "Oh, I can get that for you. I have a friend and this one." Oh, but we need to just do this for them, and then they come back like, I'd rather pay the full price than to do something like this. I'm like, seriously, seriously, think about it. Then it's like, oh, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm weird. I say, yes, you're weird. Maybe calling out. I mean, not calling out, but kind of say, hey, dude, the world doesn't run by your narcissistic behavior alone. So perhaps calling them out, also being able to give them the boundaries
Mhm.
that you set. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a work situation. In order for us to work well, we need to control this.
Mm.
In that type of a situation, you would then have to set what's your boundary.
Mm-mm,
Because if the other person is saying, hey, I'm totally fine with paying full price for it, they're
mm-mm,
entitled to say that. But perhaps on your end, you might want to say, well, if I've got this deal that's going to give me this for free and you don't want it, then perhaps you could take over the full payment. So then
mm-mm,
that's your boundary where you're essentially saying, I'm not comfortable with doing a full payment because I'm getting the deal for free.
mm,
But if you don't want the deal and you want the full payment, then
mm-mm.
how about you consider covering it? So you're not necessarily running away, but you're also not
Yeah.
giving in to something that you don't want to say yes to.
Yep. Yeah. Understand. So it needs to, like, you need to say, okay, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
However, if this is what you want, then you take over.
Okay. Thank you for that. Actually, I learned a lot from social media lately because I have been the center of attraction. I won't say any other word on social media. And I find that it's a bit harder to boundary up on social media. How would I recognize and do that and treat myself? What I did, my solution was I went for a retreat. I needed time out. I needed
Yeah.
to detox
Yeah.
because they don't really know me. They only know me as the public figure and the person who is out there, but they're not really big major fans. What I mean is they don't know every single line of my songs. They don't know all my albums. They don't buy them. They don't buy them anymore because they can, but the ones who buy will come out and support. But what about the ones I don't want to be hateful or try and be like block unblock. It's too much energy wasted doing that. So how do I boundary up my non followers and tell them, look, in a very nice way, you are really toxic. How do I do that? Please advise.
I'd say that you just want to set the tone, which is essentially saying, I welcome everyone to my page, but please be respectful.
Mm.
Because when it comes to being abusive, using abusive language, belittling someone, that's unacceptable on my page.
Mhm.
And so when you set that tone, that's your boundary. But of course, if someone's unwilling to follow that, You could block, but again, it's
Yeah.
so much of effort and energy.
Yeah.
That's where you have to ask yourself, what do you think their intention is? Because if people have genuine intentions, it's normally not tearing you down.
Right.
If someone's coming on your page to tear you down, always remember this: hurt people hurt people. So wish them well on their healing journey
do
and you
now.
focus on yours.
I mean, I've always been, but I think I can't just say any kind of words out there, especially when they think they are keyboard warriors. They're not really warriors. There's no such thing as keyboard warriors. They want to put you in a box, whatever box that they put you in. But so this is also not just for me to learn, but for all of us and for all the people out there, even for those of you who are not even famous or popular or have followers or influencers, you must not put yourself in a box. This is what I'm learning, right? What you're saying. So basically, what if I have a low self-esteem when it comes out of that? What if they do, but I don't? I've come out stronger. Thank you for making me braver and stronger, because I still have my happiness. I got my mojo back. So what about the people who do not have their mojo back and they're still going through this low self-esteem? What do they do?
It's so important for them to pour back into their own cup. And here's the reason why. When you have low self esteem, when you don't value yourself, you don't see the worth in yourself, you will end up in toxic situations, toxic relationships. And here's why. When you see the red flags and you don't value yourself, do you think you're going to walk away? No. You're going to go, oh, maybe this behavior is normal. Maybe I need to be more understanding. No, no, no. When you see the bad behavior, you walk away, because $1 million is $1 million.
Correct.
I could throw that million in mud, it's still $1 million. We know the worth of $1 million. So when you think, oh, people are saying all these things about me, that's just the mud that's being thrown. You're still $1 million. You need to know your worth, walk away from those situations, and remember to build yourself up. One of the most important things for that, be your own best cheerleader.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
What qualities then? I mean, you've seen some red flags, you walk away, you're done, but for your next outing, so to speak, it's like a field trip.
Yes. We all do that.
Yeah.
Going
Okay, for your
on a
next
trip.
outing, what qualities should
Yeah.
you look for in a healthy, supportive relationship?
Healthy relationships are based on a foundation of honesty, trust, there's mutual respect.
All that.
Yes. And here's the thing, doesn't mean that there's not going to be conflict. You
Yeah.
are going to have conflict, but it's normally us versus the problem,
Yeah.
not us attacking one another. So as soon as you see that, oh, we're attacking each other, I'm leaving the meeting feeling very drained and all
Yeah.
of that, chances are it's toxic and you have to walk away.
Yeah. Identifying it when it happens is like, don't lie to
important.
yourself, lah. It's one thing,
Yeah.
for the other person to be gaslighting you, but don't gaslight yourself.
Yeah, that's
How do we
self-sabotage
even
lah.
know we are gaslighting ourselves?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
He's just like that, short time only.
Oh, but that means that's what
Ah.
Shireen says. We are giving excuses for them, and we
Yes.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. My relationship with my husband has been pretty evolved in a really positive manner, because before this, when we first got married, I was the toxic one, knowing that he didn't want to be jealous of me.
Okay.
I mean, how sick is that? Because I was just thinking, we just got married, and because I was brought up, like you said, it goes back to your childhood, right? And I attacked him the first year, pretty much when we first got married, and this is new.
I'm like,
yeah, it's not easy, right? You have to work on a relationship, especially when it comes to marriage. And I said, why are you not jealous of me? I'm like, okay, so I have a husband who's not even jealous. He's not even asking where I'm going. He understands that this is, so I want, work. And I'm like with my friends, and I'm always taking photos. And at that time, there was only MMS, but now I'm just, I've realized that I was doing that to myself because I wanted it to be negative, and I wanted him to be jealous, and
you wanted drama.
I want the drama. And after the first year, I realized we would, like you said, just fighting about silly stuff. And I was the one that had the big issue. Then the second year, I realized, what am I complaining about? I'm so happy, actually. My husband is so trusting of me, and I trust him. And why should I attack and go into that jealousy bit?
Could it also be the company you're keeping?
At that time, maybe,
Because
when I
if
was
everybody's
when I
husband
first
is
got
like,
married.
you pergi mana? Jealous. Like, ni tak boleh. Why
Mm.
you not home at 11? You know, and then here you have a guy.
Or socially, because
Yeah,
people
or
expect,
socially as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
People expect, you know.
yeah.
I've
So,
seen so many of my girlfriends who have to check in.
yeah,
Check in
Mm.
yang every hour check in. I'm like, what do you you're with girls. So why
Yeah.
do you need to check
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
You know, and that's one aspect, like that's why I asked, could it also be the company you're keeping at
Yeah,
Mm.
that
at
time?
that time, yeah, I guess
Mm.
so. But I've realized
Yeah.
that this is not a good behavior to have in a
Mm.
relationship, especially with your soulmate. You know, I call him my soulmate. So I came out of that, and then we talked a lot about it. So now what I'm saying is that if you're in a relationship, right, I would advise everybody to solve your issues right
Mm-mm.
before you go to bed. Don't wait until like 48 hours or 24 hours.
Mhm.
So, what about people out there who are stuck and do not know how to move forward? What are the ways that they can do to it? Maybe heal themselves, or like,
Yeah.
sort of like, what can they do? What about women or men out there? You know, it's just,
The thing is, it's gonna need teamwork, right?
yeah.
If you want to rebuild a relationship, if you notice, oh, there's some unhealthy
Mm.
factors here, it seems a little bit toxic, then we need both parties to be invested in that journey. But if you're just doing that healing work on your own, yes, then you can focus on your journey, but you can't think, oh, they're gonna change. They're gonna
No.
become healthier and better at communicating and all of that. If they're not doing the work, that doesn't seem very much possible at this moment in time.
Mm.
And what you can do for yourself, again, pour back into your own cup,
Yeah.
meaning find that healthy support system. Go do things for yourself. Go out for walks, nourish your body. And all of these things show you that you are lovable, that you do deserve a good life. You do deserve these fun adventures, and you're not dependent on someone to give that to you.
That's really good.
Since we are branching on, you know, how can we move on and heal ourselves?
Mhm.
What other ways besides, like what you say, filling our cup?
Self love, yeah.
Let's say if we do need perhaps an external source or help, do you think therapy could be something on the table?
Therapy is a great resource when it comes to that healing journey, only because it's a safe space
Mm.
where you get to process your emotions. There's going to be a professional there that's helping you reflect on certain patterns and how to break free of those patterns. So I would always encourage therapy, but let's say for those that sometimes can't afford therapy, okay,
Mhm.
let's just start there. There's a lot of free resources online: YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Instagram.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
So they can always, if you can't afford it, they can always watch, and they can always, relate to some of these videos. But at the same time, they can also do counseling, don't you think so?
Yes.
In between family and friends, and like
Yeah.
just talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree to that certain extent. And what in my life right now, I have removed.
It's like cancer, you take it out.
Yeah, removed a few toxic friends basically, because I've realized during, I was telling you about this before we started the show, the pandemic season,
Yeah.
everybody was needy of each other's love and like
Support.
company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would hang out, they would hang out in my house and and like now everybody's just very judgmental, very much like, oh, when I'm in trouble, I've realized this is for me personally, please do not feel anything, but this is
Yep,
my
yep,
point of
yep.
view. To be honest, I have realized that myself, that I'm being, for example, I'm being bashed here online. Nobody, like, there was only a few people, like Shaz, Joanne, especially the first one, Joanne, Shaz, and a few people from Portable, Kyle, and a few of my only three buddies, close friends, who actually came out and said, "Hi, are you okay?"
Mm.
And that's all we all want, really. But
Mm.
for me, I recognize that, and I've noticed, wow, that's when you're in trouble. Like you say, when you're at the top, everybody wants to be your
Yeah,
friend.
everybody wants to be with
Yeah.
you.
When you are like really feeling low, that's when you kind of recognize like that lah. Like, you're not good for me.
I mean,
Mm.
because we are both in the entertainment line,
Yeah.
including Shares. But of course, I do believe that our world can be slightly more toxic
Yeah.
than radio. I'm sure radio
Mhm.
has its own
Yeah.
toxicity as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
But for entertainers like Ning and me, we play two-faced. We
Yeah.
actually do
Mm.
what I am now, here, what I am at home, and what I am on stage.
Yeah.
Three very different faces. And some would say, like, persona as well. Like, my stage persona is very different. It's that loud mouth, that opinionated, the in your face,
No holds
yeah, no
barred.
holds bar. But when I'm alone, sometimes, you know how some people you meet as who are your friends or your fans, and then they invite you out to makan. They just expect you to be on the ball at the same time. Like, okay, come on, tell me some hums up jokes. Let's do this.
Oh no.
Let's get it on. And I'm like, I thought we were having
Hello.
tea.
Yeah.
I thought we were having tea. It's like, Ning,
Yeah.
nyanyi
Nyanyi
sikit.
sikit, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
At that point, I would say, sorry, saya tengah makan. Boleh bayar. Like that. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, we also need to be mindful of the people in our life,
Yeah.
because we have so many people who adore us, who are our strong friends. But what you say is true. It's only when you're down and people are dragging you down, then the ones who even bother, like, yeah, you okay ta? Are you all right? How many would say that? You know,
Not
and
many.
when, let's say, you are coming up, or when you say something to eradicate that drama, then all of a sudden everybody wants to have a
piece.
comment,
Yes, a piece.
a
of you.
piece, like,
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm supporting you. I'm like, yeah, but 4 days ago, I don't see a text.
Yeah. So the question is, I guess, it's not wrong for us to do that, right? Because it's for our goodness. And I think a lot of people out there are going through, even my son is feeling this toxicity of having chat groups. I think we discussed
Yeah,
about
the
this
chat
before.
group, the chat
Yeah,
group.
in a chat group, even him being a pan Asian boy is still not accepted in typical race, and also the multiracial. So he couldn't identify that it was wrong. But being the parent, being the parent mother, and my husband recognized that and said, we need to just get him out of this chat, or at least speak to the parents and like see what is the source for children out there, for parents who are maybe like one man show, like
Yeah.
both of you, single parent. How do you advise your children to realize that you're in a toxic relationship with your friends? Kids do not recognize this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Essentially letting them know that if someone that they are friends with is making them feel bad about themselves or making them feel excluded, then that's not a genuine healthy friendship, so they owe it to themselves to walk away. Of course, at that age, I understand there's a lot of searching for social acceptance, and it
Yeah.
might be harder for them to feel walk away from this person.
Yes.
But essentially teaching them those skills,
Yeah.
what is healthy and what's unhealthy when it comes to people, relationships, that's going to help them as they venture into adulthood as well.
You know, it's interesting because identifying red flags and having no boundaries, it's all, I mean, look, I lived it for 17 years. Actually, I recognized red flags very early on in my relationship, in my marriage. And I also recognized that I was, I had no boundaries. And where that was coming from, who knows, Because, like I said, I didn't have a blueprint for self-sabotage, but yet I, did it to myself. And I stayed, I guess, within that marriage, I stayed for 17 years before I said enough was enough. And this was because young children were involved. I waited till my kids were teenagers before I said, you know what, screw this, I'm out. And I saw that that did more harm, I think, to my children than had I decided early on when my kids were still like 3, 4, 5 years old to, just end it and move on. So I do recognize that, and I wish more women would trust themselves when they see red flags.
I think
Right?
when it comes to children, we always, as parents,
Parents,
we
yeah.
think
Yeah.
of them first.
Yeah.
But again, if you're drowning,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
can't drown with them.
Yeah. I
Uh-uh.
mean, what
Or
are
drag
your
them,
thoughts on
right?
this,
Yeah.
Shireen?
When you're in a situation like that, of course, you don't want to cause more harm. but I always look at it as when you stay in those kinds of environments, you actually teach the kids that that's normal. Meaning, if they're seeing, oh, mom's being abused, or mom's being spoken to rudely, or dad's never around,
Mm.
if they're observing all of that, that becomes their norm, right? So when they grow up, guess what are they going to recreate?
Yeah.
What's familiar?
Mm.
So actually the best thing that parents can do, and I'm not saying just moms, sometimes it's the men that have the toxic women in their lives. The
Mm.
best thing you can do if you find yourself in that situation is leave to give your children a healthier example of what it should be,
Mhm.
not to teach them. Let's stay when it's toxic, because then we put them at risk to recreate that in their
Yes.
own lives.
You know, this thought did cross my mind as I was living through those really heavy years of my marriage, Um, and my son, who's a young adult now, we can have really tough and candid discussions about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of parental alienation and whatnot, I can't get through to my daughter, so it's really
Right.
difficult, and she doesn't see my side of the story, or where it all went wrong. Um, I worry, not so much for my son, but for my daughter, that she could, um, you know, I guess what you said, be recreating these patterns later on in her own relationships. And
Yeah.
howla, I mean, is it ever too late to
Mm.
Change.
fix what you screwed up? I mean, I feel like I screwed up
Mm.
here, if I'm honest.
The thing here is that you have self awareness and you're
Mm.
looking back and you're saying, hey, I could have done that differently.
Mm.
But here's the thing, you can't go back to the past. Nobody can. What we can look at is knowing what you know now,
Mm.
how can you do it differently today,
Hmm.
tomorrow, and all the days to come? So when you do that, that's you breaking out of that pattern, because you are taking your experience and you're saying, I'm not going to ignore the red flags again. I'm not going to just stay. And when you do that, you create a whole different pattern, which generally is healthy.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, Shaz, because
Hmm.
she's also saying how can she win, not win, but try and show, how can you show your daughter
Hmm.
that that was in the past, but
Yeah, yeah,
children, young adults
Mm-mm.
nowadays, they
yeah.
don't really realize that you have to live in the moment. And what I've learned when I went for my wellness retreat is to pause. We forget that we have to pause,
Hmm.
and then we come back and just deal with the moment. But children or young adults, they don't know how to react, or even to how do we support them?
Process
Yeah, how
things.
to
Okay.
process this
Yeah.
this
How?
kind of
Well,
behavior. Yeah,
well, of course, children is one thing, but
yeah,
even as friends
yeah.
as well.
How do we
How
tell
do
them we
we?
need their support?
Yeah.
But
Or
even
how do
then,
we
we
support?
support them to change.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You need to let someone know where you stand. Meaning,
Mm.
if you want to rebuild a relationship with
Mm.
someone, you feel that, okay, some toxic aspects may have occurred.
Mm.
You can
Mm.
let them know this relationship's important to me.
Mm.
I definitely want to rebuild. I want
Yeah.
to find a way for us to bridge that gap.
Mhm.
I leave the ball in your court. So
Mm.
you're not forcing them. You're not saying we
Mhm.
have to do this. If
Mm.
you are approaching it by
Mhm.
letting them know this is what I would love. And if you would like to go on that journey with me too, let's try it together.
That's
Yeah,
really good
maybe
words
that's
to
that.
use. I'm going to start using that too. This is what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to
Yeah.
to do. But what about? Because we always have to ask them what do
Yes,
they think
Mhm.
about, instead of saying, "Hey, can you do
Yeah.
this?" Ah?"
Yeah.
exactly.
We tend to do that because I'm quite bossy when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
used to be labeled by my husband when I was bossy on stage because of the characters even that I'm doing for dramas at that
Very
time.
Yeah.
bossy.
Very bossy. So I tend to bring it back home. And then I realize, okay, why is she saying this?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be bossy at home, but
Yeah.
women like us who are always on stage as well and off stage, we somehow or rather we have a little bit of influence of our character that we are playing at that point, which
Yeah, we bring it home.
we
The
bring
the the you need to detox that.
yeah,
You
we
need
need
to
to detox
detox
that.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I guess, I speak for my own
Mm,
experience. I have both been the toxic person,
mm-mm.
mm,
obviously, and as well as I guess, the victim
mhm,
of toxicity,
mhm,
due to my own lack of boundaries and inability to recognize. I mean, I recognize the red flags. I just didn't want to deal with it. I was in denial. Okay, things hunky dory because it should be hunky dory. So, um, for those who maybe lack the self awareness, how can you tell that you're the toxic person?
Great
How do you
question.
identify that?
Yeah.
Let's end on that note.
Yes.
All right,
That's
right.
Am I the
important.
drama?
Yeah, am I the
Am I?
drama?
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yes.
If you are the person that's always getting angry, you're super reactive, you gaslight, you lie, you don't hold space for the other person, meaning you're always defensive, you don't listen. And when I say listen, it's actually from a place of being curious. You're
Mm-mm.
asking, oh, that's interesting that you see it that way. Could you share more on that? So it's just wanting to understand their world, not saying when you share your perspective, you're making me the enemy. Anything
Ah.
where you are extremely rigid, and you are causing harm to someone, again, it could be emotionally, psychologically, or physically. If you fall in that box, chances are you're the drama, you're the toxic
Okay.
one.
All in all, instead of deflecting
Yeah.
or
You reflect.
denying
Yeah.
or reflecting,
Yeah.
maybe what's
Accepting
good
lah.
here
Yeah.
is no, just
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Just as an additional note, I'm not the toxic one this time. Nor was I the toxic one in the earlier story or situation. But yeah, it's good to reflect, and I think getting feedback from your nearest and your dearest is also
Yep.
a good thing, because I think, like, for me, I didn't want my family to know what was going on in my marriage, so I just kept it just like everything's good,
Must have been
everything's hunky
hard.
dory.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah.
There are good and bad days.
Look, Ning, it made me sick. Like,
Oh,
you know, I'm pretty
I
sure
remember
that's
you
part of
shared
the
that.
reason why I manifested
Yeah.
Everything.
everything,
Yeah.
illness.
So
Yeah.
like again, like what
Mm.
Ning did was very good as well. You take a
Bold.
pause. Very bold. Take a
Yeah.
pause. And I
Pause.
think
Yeah.
we as women who want to achieve so many
Yeah.
things, even for me myself, I'm telling
Mhm.
myself, take a pause.
Yeah.
Take a pause. And sometimes the listening needs to be your own. You need to
Internal.
listen
Yes.
to yourself.
Yes.
right.
And not be don't deny, like, no. Then you're just deflecting yourself
Yeah.
first.
So profound.
Yes.
See, I not only can talk dirty joke. Huh?
You can be a motivator. We all
Ah,
are
next
in a
one.
certain
Come,
way.
we all.
So to conclude everything, what would you advise the biggest thing for women, men, our society out there to recognize toxicity? I can't really pronounce it because I'm a bit not just dyslexic, but recognize, to also evaluate the person and in you, and also the person who's giving you this toxicity. What's the main advice? A few key points.
And breaking the pattern.
And
Breaking the pattern.
I'd say the main thing is you have to reflect on your childhood. You have to look at what was considered normal, what's familiar, and then check in with yourself based on the people that's in your life currently, and even some of the people that have been in your life. So maybe past friends, past romantic partners. Is there a pattern? Do you see, oh, yeah, they've all been emotionally unavailable? Or maybe you start to realize, I'm always the listening ear and they're always just pouring all their problems on me. Then you can recognize, I have a boundary issue. I have to set firmer boundaries. And just remember, anything that happened to you in your childhood, it's not your fault. But as an adult, you are 1,000% responsible for your healing journey. So when you give yourself that space to heal, trust me, you're going to break out of patterns and you're going to give yourself a better life.
And that's
So-
all we want.
Yes.
A better life.
Indeed. Thank you, Shireen. That was insightful.
Very much.
Thank you for having me.